life is a healing journey, you know? And the challenge will be when a healer and a healie come together and they fixate on, let's heal something.
Right, yeah.
Where is a problem? Let's fix it. You know, the energy of fixing problems need to change. When it comes to, let's say, terms like healing or consciousness or anything that I always say is trendy in the spiritual supermarket. You know, we come in with the spirit of education.
Happy 2025 and welcome again to our award-winning show, Nourished by Spinneys, where we promise to inspire you to eat well and live well. I'm Devina Divecha.
And I'm Tiffany Eslick. We're continuing our chats with leading players in the food community, from farmers to foodies, as well as health and well-being experts. It's all about engaging conversations and fresh ideas.
And we're kicking off the year with Shadi Enbashi, one of the co-founders behind SEVA Holistic Wellness Center, shop, and 100% plant-based cafe, which started out in 2014.
I love SEVA. I used to go quite often, actually, and it's so close to my house. I don't know why I've stopped doing this. I love they have a really good vegan dessert.
Okay.
And I love the yoga programs that they offer there. I've done quite a few. They do a fantastic Kundalini breathing class.
Yes, so the Kundalini class is something that Shadi talks about in the episode because he leads that class. So yes, I'm sure he'll be glad to hear that you like that one.
Yeah, he's a great teacher. They were called Life in One Cafe then, right?
Exactly. So Life in One was started in 2014 by Shadi's co-founder, Eda Güngör, as a wellness center and yoga studio and cafe, and they just celebrated their 10-year anniversary. They've since expanded to more wellness experiences in addition to the cafe and rebranded as SEVA in 2020. 10 years ago with SEVA being founded, you know, when it was in his iteration as Life in One, but what led you there? To that point, and you know, with your co-founder, and what clicked in terms of wanting to start this business?
Okay, so there are a few stages here.
Okay.
All right. So I ended up on a yoga mat after an injury from a skydive jump.
Okay.
So I used to do extreme sports. I used to be not into any of this, and I got into yoga for rehab. And then I found a moment of bliss that opened my eyes to possibilities. A year later, I flew to India to do my first teacher training, just to practice alone without the teacher back in the days. And then when I met Eda, who had started the center already by herself, I found somebody in a moment of aloneness. Hey, we speak the same language. You know, 10 years ago, not many people would be interested in the topics that we would just geek around. And I was helping around little by little while having my corporate job in parallel. And at some point, I pretty much had 2 full-time, very occupying jobs. And then I had to drop one of them, you know. I would say the personal impact on myself, just being a consumer of SEVA over the years, is what strengthens the belief in what we do and the importance of what we do. At the same time, I don't have a story of purpose or a mission or a vision and so on and so forth. I mean, of course, we do have these things to bring clarity. But if I speak from within my heart, it's a force that gets me excited every day to do what I can do best. Yeah. And it isn't something about the world needs help or we need to protect our human race and so on. It's the little things that we do every day that are of value and impact. You know, how we look after our neighbors, how we greet a stranger in the street, how we eat with awareness and presence and the attention to that when somebody's talking, are we listening? You know, these little things are muscles that we need to develop. And the more we increase the quality and improve the quality, we add a layer of beauty to our daily life experience. And day after day, the feedback that we get from people and the thank you messages about how much this place has been of value to their journey or how much they love to hang out here and so on. These are the empowering messages, you know. We don't work for them, but they are good reminders that we are adding value and adding a layer of beauty, perhaps, in our abilities to the community around us.
So right now with SEVA as a concept, you know, you've got a cafe and you've also got the wellness experiences, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Can you talk me through a little bit about that, kind of what you offer?
Of course.
If I were to come to Seba, what would I find there? What can I do?
Of course. So our cafe is the first 100% plant-based cafe in the Middle East since 2014. We are gluten-free, cane sugar-free, GMO-free, and we are very much solid on the process. And the offerings are very much house-made from scratch, everything. Even, for example, the almond milk. And
you make it in-house?
Every day.
Okay.
Every day. All our dishes are made very much so from scratch. And we look always at offering an experience that is multisensory.
Yeah.
So the ambience of the space, the music that we play, the scent that you smell, the garden, all kind of create an environment around the dish that you order or the drink that you have. We are very creative in naming our dishes, in the flavors that we add to everything. We are very passionate about also functional superfoods.
Okay.
So we hunt around whatever we learned from here and there, and we create very interesting mixes.
Do you have any favorites at the moment or functional superfoods that you're seeing a lot more of maybe?
So Shilajit is one of them.
Okay.
That is something that I've been using personally for nearly a decade.
Okay.
And it started to be added to our dishes and drinks. A favorite drink is called Mystic Mushroom today, which is also a blend of a number of medicinal mushrooms with tahini and cinnamon and kind of these kind of flavors. So we are replacing hot chocolate with more, hip stuff in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can, like, nowadays, one of the best sellers is called Shadi's wrap.
Okay.
Because it was kind of a dish that I was asking for behind the doors always. And then our chef Kiki decided to put it on the menu, and they didn't get a chance to give it a name. So they call it Shadi's wrap.
So what is in that?
It's tofu cubes in dynamite sauce, which is also house-made, and layers of pickles and avocado and other greens and so on.
Yeah, okay.
In a very delicious blend. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah.
Was it a challenge to do that in 2014 when you started as a cafe where you were fully plant-based, you removed cane sugar, obviously gluten-free as well, and GMOs? Did you find that difficult then?
Very much.
Yeah.
Nobody cared.
Okay, fine.
But so the story is my business partner, Eda, she is a trained chef, and she is trained on French cuisine. And French cuisine, we're talking about a lot of butter,
cream,
a lot of cream, a lot of wine, a lot of cheese, and that affected her health big time.
Yeah.
And that is where she decided to be plant-based herself.
Got it.
Back in the days. And then when we met and we tagged along, I was already very much passionate about the richness of plant-based food.
Yeah.
And that was the drive. It wasn't about let's change the world and make everybody vegan or plant-based. It was more of this is an approach to bring health aspects into life, and people can choose to add it to as a meal a day, a day a week, not necessarily convert. We're not here for that.
Yeah.
And also, it's an extension of what we are offering in the wider spectrum from the wellness side of things.
Yeah.
With the therapy work, with the yoga and meditation classes and trainings and so on.
But then has that perception changed since you started? When you said no one cared, how is that looking like now with the community?
I would say statistically, there is higher volume of people who are interested in this kind of food. But also, I would say the education aspect, because we are not really attracting so-called vegans only.
Yeah.
Health conscious people, people who are looking for delicious food that is flavorful, and also the ambience is very, very unique. So these are the things that attract people mostly to come to Seba.
And you mentioned how that the food ties into everything else you offer from a wellness perspective. Let's talk a little bit more about that. How do you see that relationship between food and wellness, even when you're thinking about not just physical, but mental health, for example?
Yeah. When we coined the term experience into Seba and added it, every touch point is an experience.
Yeah.
What you eat, the ambience, movement, and what you offer. It's an experience in general. So when it comes to the wellness offerings that we have, the foundation is movement.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can call it yoga, we can call it meditation, and so on and so forth. But when you ask about mental health and stability and clarity, in the end, the primary food for the brain is sugar, in a way. But the choices of what we offer can also bring clarity and how I'm going to say it. Let me explain it differently.
Yeah.
We don't pay attention often about the energy that we spend digesting food.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Sure. Yeah.
So, for example, a lot of people say, I can't fast because it's going to drain my energy and I need to eat in order to function in a certain way. But based on my personal experience over the years as well, I go through certain cleanses and fasting. And of course, the hormonal imbalances of the first couple of days will create some headaches and some instabilities.
Yeah.
But there will come a point where you realize that you're retaining incredible energy and clarity because you're not processing and digesting and breaking the food inside of you.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, when you go to any therapy session, for example, or body work, they say, don't eat too much before you come to the session, right? That by itself is basically telling the body, I am not digesting and I'm not processing and so on. Or don't eat before you go to bed.
Yeah.
Because even if you might fall asleep, the engine is working, right? So there is so much about our relationship with food that is not being recognized as a priority and an important topic. It's not just about the calorie.
Yeah.
It's not just about, fat or carbs or protein or this and that, or breaking down the protein to the amino acids and so on and so forth. If you ever go to one of those ashrams or temples or any of those traditional places, or even visiting indigenous culture where you see that the opening, setting the space, the pace with which you eat and so on are all very important parts of how we relate to food.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, we were hunters and gatherers, and that's when we used to eat when we need to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was when we would maybe hunt and have our big feast and then rest and relax for a few days and then come back again and so on. Our relationship with food today is very confused, and we don't pay attention to the layer of emotions that comes to it, So, for example, some parts of the world, ancestors barely had food. And if we are made from the last 7 generations, for example, the memory of that scarcity is still in the body.
Okay.
And when we come to relate to food today, sometimes we may not be hungry, but there is an emotional relationship that is basically driving how we eat.
Okay.
So how aware we are of what our body needs is something that's very important. In the same way, mental clarity is something that not many people pay attention to, because often we live a lifelong journey in relationship to a certain food and eating habits that may seem to be okay. Like, for example, let's say you are affected by gluten, and gluten really drops your body's performance, right? But you've always been eating gluten as a cultural thing. So you might say, I'm fine. But because you may be performing and operating at 60% all your life, and you've never done that
You've never had
shift,
100%,
to have the experience of, higher clarity and precision and so on. So these are the things that are worth paying attention to, rather than going into nitty-gritty details or the trends or, the new diet and so on. There is no perfect diet.
Yeah.
It's never going to be the case. We need to tune into our bodies and our preferences and our emotions to find that balance that can basically sustain us.
And with this concept of wellness and, whether it's physical or mental health and movement, with the experiences that are offered at SEVA, for example, was that something that was quite accepted from the start, unlike the food? Or is that something that, you also slowly had to build a community around, or build a kind of acceptance around, thinking about holistic wellness as a whole?
It's forever work in progress.
Okay.
We are constantly refining and polishing and adjusting, getting the feedback, getting the responses. The community that we have today is incredible.
Yeah.
We've seen it when we had the anniversary.
Yeah.
It was radical. I mean, 600 people around over the weekend from morning till late. And even we had a couple of sound journeys at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
We had over 100 people in the garden
Wow.
at that time. And we can see that from the feedback that we get, that we are on a track that resonates with people's hearts. And this is what empowers us and inspires us constantly.
Yeah. Are there any kinds of sessions or workshops or experiences that are more popular with people than others?
Yeah. I mean, if I think about the nature of what we offer, so yoga classes are on demand.
Yeah, of course.
Every day.
Yeah.
I teach Kundalini yoga on the weekends,
Okay.
and that is a full house every weekend. But in addition to that, sound healing is another very important offering. Sound healing and sound journeys, because this is something that is very easy for people to tag along, tune into.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of people come after work for an hour of
To
sound
relax,
journey,
yes.
de-stress, recalibrate, and then go on to their evening. In terms of the workshops and the other, let's say, ad hoc offerings, we have moon events. So on the full moon and the new moon, we have inner wisdom circles, women's circles, womb steaming. We have mandala workshops. The core of what we offer is our training programs.
Okay.
So we just launched our SEVA Kundalini Yoga teacher training that started this December for a year. And we're running the third cycle of our therapist training with our lead therapist, Nir Levy. So these two are very serious training programs. They stretch for a year long, and they are designed with the vision to put people out of the training ready to perform, ready to teach, ready to educate. So it's very rigorous performing programs. They are not like lightweight.
Yeah, but it sounds like there's just a really good community around this.
Yeah. Great community, and at the same time we have great assets, the therapists and the facilitators that we work with, whether they are the local resident crew that we work with as teachers and therapists, or the international facilitators that we continue to invite and bring from different parts of the world.
You know, especially in the wellness space, and just depending on whether it's someone who's, you know, well into it or someone who's just trying to figure out what's going on. There is, I think, sometimes that danger of, you know, some people using maybe words like consciousness or mindfulness as very cliched and buzzwords. How do you prevent that from happening with everything that you do, whether it's through the services or through the food? So to go beyond it being just a cliche and being something that, you know, matters. Yeah.
We operate with a vision on a horizon perhaps broader than many. And when we shifted from Life in One to SEVA, we used to be called Life in One Healing Center.
Right.
That was the media kind of term given to us. And we dropped the healing center part with the vision and the intention to not fall into these buzzwords that can also be misguiding in many ways.
Yeah.
For example, when it comes to healing, life is a healing journey, you know? And the challenge will be when a healer and a healie come together and they fixate on, let's heal something.
Right. Yeah.
Where is a problem? Let's fix it. You know, the energy of fixing problems need to change. The narrative need to change because often we overlook the reality that we are in bodies that are designed and evolved over millions of years on survival basis. The intelligence in the body is incredible, and it's a self-correcting system in many ways. Nature corrects itself. So we are here often to get our little self out of the way. You know, drop the stories, because the biosubjective reality that we live today is what creates most of the obstacles and the blockages and the challenges. So when it comes to, let's say, terms like healing or consciousness or anything that I always say is trendy in the spiritual supermarket, you know, we come in with the spirit of education, bringing awareness, bringing clarity, because language is our medium of communication, but at the same time, it's a limiting medium. So how can we bring an upgrade of the inner dictionary, you know? And that is based on experience, because no matter what, if somebody comes and they are using all these terms, you know, many people come and introduce themselves. I'm a healer, I do this and I do that, and so on and so forth. We are not here to correct or to change anybody's narrative, you know. We are precisely clear on how we bring our story out there. That's why our captions, our marketing is something we take very, very seriously. We don't just outsource it to some agency.
Yeah.
And we drive people crazy when it comes to the choices of the words that we use, you know, because there is so much out there in the mainstream that is not accurate and precise. Like the word shaman, you know, shamanic practices. The minute I talk about shamanism, you will immediately think about the Amazon jungle, for example. But shamanism comes from Siberia, you know, in the jungle. They don't use the word shaman. It's a curandero. It's a healer in the term that is used in the tribes. But the point is, underneath it is coming to understanding that this is a practice of tuning into nature, looking and observing and learning by observing and tuning into the power in the pyramid of existence, all the way from minerals to the spirits and beyond, you know? So these are the parts where we bring education and art and beauty together to weave something that can be important to pay attention to is responsibility. You know, we are planting seeds for future generations. We talk about ancestors. One day we will be the ancestors.
Yeah.
Are we ready to be ancestors? And that is the important part, you know, to pay attention to how we are going to be contributing to the future in a way while honoring the past.
Yeah.
So these are the important things. When we talk about movement, it's not just physical movement, even generational movement in a way.
I'm going to ask, you've obviously celebrated 10 years. You know, what's next? Like, what are you thinking about in terms of the future? What's on the agenda for you guys?
There is a great book that I read this year, and there's one incredible line from it that I keep dearly to my heart. And it says, I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there.
Yeah.
And the idea is, how can we build our stability and flexibility to be ready for the next movement, for the next step? As a business, we are always like on the verticals of either retail, F&B, or services for the wellness.
Yeah.
Community has always been something that we cherish. It's the foundation of what we do. But now we are starting to look at community from a very different perspective. How can we look at community as a source of power, not only to offer it its own needs and give it the ambience and services and so on, but how can we really get the power back? You know, how to integrate with the community, to learn how we can take feedback seriously, you know, because it's not just about following what's the latest trend, you know, it's really understanding what are the needs. When we talk about offerings in SEVA, we always are having the baseline of all inclusive,
right?
You know, and we often forget that there are people, like you were talking about just now, people who may have never been into that spectrum.
Yeah.
There are people who've never done yoga. And we are talking about yoga like, you know, it's just another cup of coffee. So we forget sometimes how important it is to be all-inclusive, how important it is to pay attention to when somebody needs help. What's the first thing they do today? Where is the relationship with the medicine industry, with pharmaceutical and so on? You know, holistic wellness is also seen as a hippie culture, you know, and that is something that people will say, no, we don't want these crystal wearing people to talk to stars, who go into astrology and all these woo stuff, right? We are grounding spirituality, and this is something very important. We don't talk much about spirituality because it's a very private matter.
Yeah.
The spiritual aspect of everybody's life is not something to brag about.
Yeah.
And because we are still very, very young in our relationship with this aspect and this dimension, we talk about it like little kids. You know, we haven't developed the depth of the relationship. And these are the important parts that we are working heavily to establish as a foundation for what Seba is. We don't want to be just another cafe.
Yeah.
We don't want to be just another yoga studio. I mean, yes, we offer this, and some people just look for a cafe in the corner, and we offer a beautiful ambience. But when we pay attention to the tiny little details, we are here for impact.
Yeah.
You know, how is it manifested? In many, many different ways. We are working on very big corporate wellness programs nowadays. We are offering, we are doing a lot of research especially in today's world with the new technology coming left and right, and the way our relationship with the screen and AI coming, and I'm sure you hear it all the time. How can we relate to all of this? Because the foundation for us is health. If you are not healthy, you can't grow, you can't scale. Whatever you achieve is going to be at a very expensive price. Now, how do we redefine aspects of health? Because today's generation are very different than a few generations ago. And even how our brains are evolving, how our body is functioning, even how your hand holding phones and screens today is going to reform, your anatomy in time, generations after generations. Our eyes and the fixation on short focus points and so on versus long-term horizons and nature and so on. All these aspects are very, very important. So how do we develop our offerings in a way that is, hand in hand with the evolution of the human race today?
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but that's why I said, I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there. But because we develop the basic foundations of being flexible and being stable.
Nice.
In every step.
I was going to ask actually, is Kundalini yoga, is it like what kind? I don't know much about yoga. I have tried yin yoga, which I actually like. I've tried normal yoga, which I don't like. But I enjoy the long stretches and everything that yin gives me, so I'm okay with that. But yeah, what involves Kundalini yoga? What sets it apart?
Like I said, this weekend we started the teacher training, and there were hours and hours about talking what is Kundalini yoga.
Okay.
So I'll try to summarize it briefly. Different schools of yoga happened to be transmitted and compiled and mixed up around an idea of awakening a dormant energy in the body called Kundalini. Kundalini is a Sanskrit word coming from kundal, which is like the braid of the beloved. So it's kind of the movement of the energy like a snake around the tree. Now, we don't awaken any energies. We are not here to activate anything. We are here to understand that this energy manifests as emotions, as thoughts, as psychological aspects, and as physical aspects of our body. And as they move and as they expand, we need to be able to contain them. So what we develop is the vessel, is the container with, again, stability and flexibility to allow us to sustain this movement of the energy and to learn how to direct it with intention. So we use the voice and the sound, which are different. And at the same time, we use the drishti, the gaze, and we use the breath and the physical movement to manipulate these aspects and to create a simulation of how we can understand how this energy moves. It's a lot of fun. A lot of breakthroughs happen in the classes constantly. And I have people who come regularly for years. And I have people who come for the first time almost every weekend. And everybody gets a beautiful experience. Yeah. Would love to have you over someday.
Hopefully someday. I'll think about it. People have been trying to get me to do yoga for a long time because my dad does yoga a lot, and he does every single morning, very like on schedule about it. And I do understand from a theoretical perspective why it's important. Every time I've done it, I've just never really sunk into it. Which is why I said I've only had some level of success with yin, where I've done multiple classes now and I'm like, okay, this is fine. So yeah, I don't know what is. I'm sure there's a mental block somewhere. Maybe it'll get released at some point. I don't know.
I hear you, but that's also based on expectations to achieve something or to get somewhere, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know what I expect from it, to be honest. I guess maybe at the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, if I do yoga, maybe I'll be more flexible, or maybe I'll breathe better, or maybe I'll just be more calm. Being calm would be good.
All of the above.
Yeah, those I guess are kind of background expectations. But yeah, I don't know.
Yoga is a path,
Yeah.
not the path.
Yeah.
Some people can use singing as their yoga,
Yeah.
or playing music,
Yeah.
or dancing, or any other sort of expression.
Mm.
In the end, yoga comes from the word yuj, union, which is intimacy with everything, within
Right.
and without.
Yeah.
So how can we be intimate with ourselves? Because the more intimate with ourselves, the more universal we become, the more we understand the world, we feel into it, we connect with it differently. So it was intended, it was designed for householders in a way that it was a way of sustaining life.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it wasn't something cool like today or to
like
do
trendy
it.
to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It wasn't developed for that purpose.
Yeah.
You know? So how can we honor the origins in a way? And how can we understand that this is a tool and an instrument that can allow us to explore and navigate the inner world to be able to cruise in the outer world with grace? Yeah. Come over.
Okay.
You're going to have fun.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. And no stretches and awkward postures at all.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Fine, I'll hold you to that. Maybe I will try it one day. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I've tried. I just get bored.
I can assure you, you won't get bored in my
Okay,
class.
fine. Okay.
I mean, it's so funny. I don't promote it. I don't talk about it, but it's full house every Saturday and Sunday. And people come back and back and back. I mean, there are a lot of people who go into tears, laughters, joy, moments of bliss. I gong at the end. So there's the relaxation with gonging,
yeah.
which is also a great experience. Some people come for Shavasana, and that's what they all come from. They just want to come and lay down at the end, you know? And the nice thing about Kundalini Yoga is that you are mostly seated.
Okay.
You are not going to be like moving around.
Okay.
We are moving the upper part. We sometimes move the legs with squats and so on. But the sensation, it takes you, I mean, you may have sat for meditation once in a while here and there. That realm of expansiveness is something you experience sometime even just with the breath.
Okay.
So the idea is that we take you in a journey for like an hour or 90 minutes and beautiful music and a beautiful crowd and to have an experience. We say we wander without purpose sometime, you know, we move, but there's nowhere to go. So just allow the movement to be there for the sake of being.
Okay. So this is a question we ask all our podcast guests. I'm going to ask you as well. What is it that nourishes your soul?
You know, it is not one thing. There is sometimes moments when you hear a word or a voice or you touch a texture. You have a sensory experience that speaks to your innermost self. What nourishes my soul, I would say, whatever moves my inner child. I always say my inner child is my teacher, and the inner child is the memory of the foundation of life. Whatever happened is the framework with which we operate today, with we judge, with which we choose, with which we take risks, and so on and so forth. So whatever speaks to the inner child for me is what nourishes the soul. And there is something about language that can also go beyond meanings interpreted by the mind that speak to the heart. We are storytellers in the day. We are born telling stories, and we are telling stories as salespeople. We're telling stories as parents, as friends, as teachers, you know. And in the end, everything we say to ourselves. So that interdimensionality and the way we interact when we talk about seeing somebody as your mirror and seeing that we are all one organism, not individual, those aspects of life, when they drop into a certain frequency that clicks, you know, it brings a smile that is timeless. Because in the end, we are born, we walk, and we die. Right? So what are we here for? The big question.
Yeah.
Bees don't ask these questions. Animals don't ask these questions. All the humans occupy a lot of period of their times questioning, what are we here for? But beyond that, there are moments and pockets of realizations and remembrance. And these can, like I said, can be by bumping into some nostalgic food from childhood, or listening to an old song, or even reading a book that is relatively new, but brings those memories back. Because in the end, physics-wise, we are constantly living in the past. The moment I say something, it's going to take time to cross through space. By the time you listen to it, it had happened already. So everything we experience is in the past. So what is really time? You know? So what nourishes the soul is those awarenesses, those moments of realizing maybe we are here for a layer of beauty. Maybe we are here to plant a seed for the future. Maybe we are here to acknowledge and recognize what happened in the past, or to even acknowledge that existing today with all our complaints, with all our drama and so on, it took a lot of people to bring us to this life.
Yeah.
Generation after generation after generation, and they happen through us. The idea of free will and choices, that we think we make choices, we don't recognize that much how much our grandparents are actually operating through us. We maybe are just puppets in their hands, because the DNA carries the memory, carries the conditioning, all these, layers. And just to have that moment of realization, is a nourishing thing.
That was a very deep answer. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I have to say, you have a very calming voice. I'm just feeling very calm at the moment.
It depends. You got to come to my class. Sometimes I'm very up in the yang, It depends on where we are, but it's a very quiet and a very soothing space you have here.
Oh, thank you.